Good day, South Africa. This is United South African Coalition News. We are here to bring your news to the world, a complete coverage of South Africa. Today, the 18th of July, 10 a.m. in Ottawa, Canada, a vigil was held outside the South African consulate, and a petition was handed to the South African ambassador, with regards to land expropriation and the genocide and discrimination of minorities in South Africa. The vigil was held by the Canadians Against South African Genocide, South African Crime Group, Usac, United South African Coalition, and Project Survival of South Africa. A further vigil was held outside the Global Affairs, the Canadian government, and they have requested the Canadian government give support to these projects with regards to the plight of the South African population and the discrimination by the South African government. Here in the town near you, this seems to be a daily occurrence, where people are just running amok in the streets, burning buildings, stealing, breaking, looting, assaulting people. For what reason? There seems to be no control at all. The government of South Africa has lost control of the situation in South Africa, that it's becoming untenuous, and therefore this is just craziness. What was going on? Crime is rampant and the government is completely out of control. They have no control at all. Here is ex-President Jacob Zuma. I'm going to do a expose on this fella, but it has been suspected that he was a nationalist government spy for a while. He infiltrated the ANC for them. They put him in jail. There's a lot to this guy, that he's a very, very devious, insidious criminal. How he got to this position is actually quite surprising. He's not a very smart fella. He is sitting there now screaming foul, but for years and years and years he's played everybody like fools. He has managed to weasel his way through many things, and now here he is sitting for crimes against his people. And all he can talk about is that his children have been threatened. And yet he is threatened. His own children have threatened whites. His own children have been implicated in murder. And so is he. Not only murder, but rape. And he is deep in the pockets of state capture. Billions and billions of rands with the Guptas and his criminal family, which have had their hands in many corrupt deals in South Africa. This man should have never become the president of South Africa. Yeah, he sits and he complains that his families are being threatened. It's just an excuse to divert from the real issue at hand, that he's a criminal and he needs to pay back the billions of rands that he took to build his beautiful house that will now go to ruin, and the houses he had to sell in Dubai to give back the money he stole. This man should not be sympathized with at all. President Cyril Ramaphosa today in Parliament asked the parties across the aisle to assist him in uniting the government in a project of uniting the country in uplifting, and yet he is discriminating against the minorities in South Africa, namely the whites. He forgets that from 1994 until the present day, the children that were born in this country were never born under the system of apartheid, and yet his discrimination laws on the BEE laws deny white children jobs. They grew up under black rule the entire time. Furthermore, the commercial farms went from 150,000 commercial farms to 33,000 commercial farms. The farmers are being attacked on a daily basis. If what he says is true and it's just crime, if he does not step in now and stop this insidious crime wave on farmers, then he is complicit in the Zimbabwean system of removing farmers from the land. If he is the president of South Africa, he needs to send the military to these farms to assist the farmers in stopping these attacks, because sooner or later his food security will be at risk and the entire country will be at risk. He has yet to mention the uncontrolled crime rate, destruction of small towns, attacking of municipality buildings all over the country. He is not addressing the real issues at hand. He's trying to find excuses for land expropriation without compensation, and it's not working, because what they did was let the cat out the bag, and now the population is believing that they will have free land. Without a title, these lands will never be theirs. Without a title, the banks will never lend you a loan. Without a title, the government will lose all credibility when they take the land back for development later on. They're going to hide their identities to protect them. She was at the traffic stop, and when she had a gun placed against her head with the baby in the car, she gave them her stuff. She didn't expect to live. When a good Samaritan drove at the robber and saved her life, this needs to happen more often. In another case, a farmer was attacked. He was tied up and left in a room. He managed to untie himself, grab a weapon, and shoot one of the attackers. This too needs to happen. One must carry weapons on you all the time. One cannot be not vigilant anymore. Furthermore, we had a case where two old people were tied up in their house and tortured and killed the other day. Another terrible, terrible crime. This has to stop. For the faint of heart, if you cannot watch this, please look away. But here's a gentleman that was stabbed through the neck, still alive. This is a daily basis in South Africa. This needs to stop. There is no reason for this type of violence that is continuing to perpetuate in South Africa. Everybody needs to fight back against these crimes. It is time to take back your country. The government has lost control. Strengthen numbers, unite, and fight back. Crime has no color. Good day, South Africa. This is United South African Coalition News. We are here to bring your news to the world. A complete coverage of South Africa